Ladies and gentlemen, I'm in the Northeast and it has been kind of warm over these past few days. We were practically in the 70s on Saturday and Sunday, and we've been in the upper 50s and upper to mid 50s, I should say. And now, towards the end of the week, actually starting Thursday night, we're getting hit with another polar vortex. Yeah, like I'm really looking forward to that. Oh, I am bracing myself. I hate these things. How will the polar vortex play a role in upcoming pattern change in eastern US? This one, ladies and gentlemen, is going to span across the entire Northeast. So this came out January 14th, 2020. A change in reality check is coming soon in the weather pattern that will allow longer lasting, more frequent waves of cold air to roll across eastern half. The eastern half of the United States. We expect conditions to turn much colder during the last 2 weeks of January. AccuWeather lead long range meteorologist Paul Pastelok, Pastelok, said there will be some weakening and stretching of the polar vortex, which will allow cold air to drain southward from Canada in stages during the second half of the month. However, a big break and major shift of the polar vortex, which would allow extremely cold discharge, is not anticipated, he explained. So, right now in the South, they had some pretty treacherous weather with a lot of tornadoes over this past week. And as you can see, that jet stream is dipping down and that polar vortex is, oh man, I am not looking forward to this. The polar vortex is a large storm that tends to keep cold air locked up near the Arctic Circle when it's strong. When the polar vortex weakened, it shifts its position. Cold air can escape southward. A major plunge or shift of the polar vortex is not needed for lasting harsh cold this time of the year. The weather pattern during the late autumn and thus far during winter has only allowed brief bursts of cold air to dip south, mainly across the northern third of the nation, with one or two exceptions. The upcoming cold could be enough to shock Northeasterners who are riding a temperature roller coaster this week. Yes, we are. I mean, how do you go from nearly 70 degrees down to very cold, ice cold feeling wind? But that's what we're headed for. Okay, recall the last weekend, a large northward bulge in the jet stream developed in the eastern states. This allowed southerly flow of warm air that contributed to dozens of high temperature records over the broad area, as well as severe weather in the south. And that's exactly what happened. We had very mild temperatures in the Northeast, and the South got slammed with floods and tornadoes. And oh man, it was a mess down there. Temperature departures from average range from 15 to 30 degrees Fahrenheit above normal up and down the eastern seaboard, with highs ranging from 40 to 80 degrees. That's what they mean, 40 to 80 degrees. This week, the jet stream has resumed a pattern similar to much of December and early January. The jet stream will continue this pattern of short northward bulges and southward dips into this weekend until a large winter storm arrives. With the aid of this large storm and weaken of the high pressure area off the Atlantic coast near Bermuda, the jet stream pattern will continue to evolve in such a way that a large southward bulge will set up by next week. Instead of a pattern flipping back to small bumps and dips, the large southward bulge is likely to persist and stick around for 2, perhaps 4 weeks. So it looks like we're going to be stuck with this cold air coming down from the Arctic for at least 2 weeks. And then once we come out of the 2 weeks, we should be bumping back up in our temperature across the eastern seaboard. Wow. By next weekend, nearly all of the lower 48 states may be colder than average, Pastelac said. However, temperatures are not forecast to plunge to extreme enough levels to balance the record warmth from this past weekend. Temperature departures from average will probably be more like 3 to 10 degrees below average. Okay, that might not be too bad. That's a far cry from the 15 to 30 degree departure on the warm side. But given the upcoming period is close to the coldest part of the winter, the pattern change will be a harsh reality check for hundreds of millions of people. Energy demands will increase, and heavy winter coats with hats and gloves will make a comeback. I'm sure it will. If y'all remember when we had that polar vortex, I mean, shoot, you had the Midwest minus 33, minus 20, and all that. So that was just outrageous. And we went all the way down a couple of times below 0 degrees. And I remember we were 9 degrees. We went through like several days. It was like 8 degrees. It was crazy. It was crazy when that was happening, and it impacted so many people. And a lot of folks don't realize, just like you have a lot of fatalities during a hurricane, when you have the cold like this, these polar vortex, it wipes out quite a few people too. These winter storms and these, because a polar vortex technically is a storm that pulls all that cold air southward. And there's always fatalities, especially if they don't get people off of the streets, especially the homeless. You'll hear about them freezing to death this time of the year. So, look, when we had the polar vortex last year, some people went out in their garages or went out in their front yards and died. They went out in those cold sub-zero degree temperatures, and they underestimated how deadly it was. And I believe there was a FedEx truck driver that died in his truck out there and across the Midwest. Yeah, it's no joke. And for the life of me, I can't understand why somebody would expect you to work in these kind of temperatures. It makes no sense. I mean, how hard is it to just let people have a day or two off until the temperatures warm up some? Really? You have to make money that badly? But I mean, we are in America, and this is how these folks think. Money over everything. But y'all, please tell me what you think. And those of you that are on the East Coast, please be careful. If you are in the Northeast, stay warm because these next couple of days are going to be pretty treacherous with this thing coming back down from the Arctic. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family.